Dark Gift Warlock uses a mixture of Zerg minions along with the Seaside Giant and Location Package, along with the Dark Gift Package. The idea behind the deck is that you develop tempo using the Zerg Package, so you're looking for Spawning Pool and Ultralisk Cavern, and then you can get out your Seaside Giants quite early. In addition, you have the Dark Gift Package, which allows you to get bonuses towards your Wallow. The Wallow can get Charge, it can get Wind Fury, it can get Divine Shield, it can get Reborn with its full enchantments. So there's a lot of different bonuses that can go with the card, and when you use it, it means that you can get a lot of damage coming from hand, a lot of burst damage coming from hand, that can be used to finish off your opponent. So with the combination of the early game coming with all the giants, along with coming from the later game of being able to get the buff onto your Wallow, you're able to deal a lot of damage to your opponent, and in general will be able to outvalue or outrace them before they end up being able to establish control. The cards you want to mulligan for in this deck is Spawning Pool, the Cavern, Seaside Giant if you've got a few of your locations, the 1 mana Death Rattle minion that gives you a 7 mana minion or more from your deck, and also your Dark Gift minions, so then you can get the establishment done quite early. If you're playing against a slower deck such as the Demon Hunter that I did there, it was appropriate to get the Nidus Worm so I'll be able to get as many giants out as I can, because when they're using the armor package that's coming from it, it's not seeming like it actually can apply that much pressure till later on in the game, and with only 4 armor coming from the Starship rather than the 6, it does mean that your giants are dealing a lot more damage to them than before. Going into this gameplay, I am playing obviously against this Demon Hunter deck. The Demon Hunter deck does seem quite strong with being able to get all the armor and things like that. What I've found is that you can combo out a lot of damage coming from it as well. I did do a recording of the Demon Hunter as well, which will be coming out after this video. And in general, you find that the deck does have the ability to OTK, because you can use Ceaseless Expanse in addition to using the Starship pieces. What I just did then was I played my 3 mana Dark Gift minion, and the one that I chose was the one that summoned a 2/2 copy of itself, because if you use the enchantment, I believe that it will mean that you'll be able to get an extra copy of it out by itself. Otherwise, being able to use the Wind Fury in addition to it anyway is quite a lot. What I'm building towards at the moment is I'm building towards using the Cavern and getting the Ultralisk out of it, in addition to using the 5 mana minion to be able to summon a friendly location, so when it's down to the 1 Death Rattle, and then I'll be able to use it twice, and then I'll be able to summon the 4 minions out of my deck. So I do have quite a strong play that's coming up very shortly. So this turn I will be playing down my 5 mana minion to be able to get the I will be doing it to get the extra Ultralisk Cavern buff coming out the following turn, or I could use the Consume now and then use it. Either way, it does mean that I do have the buff that's coming from it, so I did use the Consume and then I got the Cavern out. So now that I have the 2 Caverns, both of them will be able to be procced next turn. So in addition to having the Demon Hunter Legendary Tourist, it does mean that I get 2 buffs of it coming each turn, which is going to be very strong going into this coming turn. I'll have 4 8/8s onto the board. I do end up drawing into another Ultralisk Cavern, which is really strong as well. So I play down the 4 mana minion. I then use the Ultralisk Cavern to get my 2 giants out. And then I do have a lack of board space at the moment, so I used the Spawning Pool to get it out. I then use the other Spawning Pool as well, so I can use the Zerglings to attack into those minions, attack into the Defense Crystal, and then I use the other one as well to be able to attack into it too, because I want to be able to clear the board of the defense crystals. So they do have the 5 mana minion. That's the reason why I traded like that. And it also means that I do have a very wide board now of the giants to be able to go face into them. So I have, at the moment, the 4 giants in addition to my 4/5, my 4/4 and my 5/5. So next turn I'll be able to, if I need to, I can use the Ultralisk Cavern or I can use my Horizon's Edge. But with the amount of damage that I'm applying onto the board, it does mean that they're sitting in a very tricky situation. They do play down their card that gets to trigger a death rattle that's being used, so it does mean they get some more defense crystals out. But with my Ultralisk Cavern and my table flip, I'll be able to go table flip into Ultralisk Cavern to be able to clear the defense crystals of any of them that they do have. So I'm just hoping that they don't have any particular way to be able to get out the 5-drop. But since they've already used a lot of their mana, they won't be able to access it this turn. So next turn I'll be able to... They use the Infiltrate as well to be able to deal some damage to my board. I do pick up the Seaside Giant, which is quite strong as well. So I use the table flip first. I then use the Ultralisk Cavern. And it hits obviously into their board, and then I deal all the damage that I can going into their face, so it does deal most of their health, but I think they're left with just 1, which isn't too much of a concern considering I do have the 4 mana location. It means that if I need to, I can clear them, and with the amount of giants that I do have on board, unless they have another big AoE or a few AoEs, they aren't going to be able to clear me. They use Return Policy. It gets them some more defense crystals out. So I'm not really too concerned at the moment of what they're doing. They use the aura to be able to clear most of my board. So at the moment, I do still have a decent chance of being able to hit it anyway. I use the Horizon's Edge first just to be able to see if I can get the hit. And in general, it's quite likely that it will end up hitting as well. So yeah, I just play down the Horizon's Edge, tap it, it ends up hitting face, and then it's the end of the game for it. So like, you can see the power that comes from this deck. Just being able to get all those giants on the board meant that they weren't able to get into the late game, which meant that obviously they couldn't deal a lot of pressure towards me. Going into this game, I am playing against a warrior. I don't know of the particularly strong warrior archetypes at this point in time as well, so I do end up just full keeping this hand. Having the Seaside Giant is quite strong, especially against slower archetypes, because you more than likely will end up hitting the locations you need anyway. I do play down the 1-drop here. If they end up clearing, it does mean that I get either the Seaside Giant or the Wallow out of my deck, and both of those cards are particularly strong for applying pressure towards the opponent. They end up getting their Pedal Peddler out, so it doesn't do too much in the first turn, and yeah, since they don't have another minion that's there, but obviously it does end up building up towards the later part of the game. The Rude Awakening is one of the dark gifts that you don't want to be getting, because there's no battle cry that goes onto your Wallow. Unless it's a really strong minion that it lands on for the battle cry, there's no point in keeping that one. The ones you're looking for is Wind Fury, Divine Shield, the Lifesteal with Health, Charge, those sorts of ones that are there. I did draw it top deck into the Ultralisk Cavern, so I just get it down onto the board to be able to apply some pressure towards the opponent. You always want to use that before using the Cavern. Another option that I could have done was play down the Hive Queen. Since it had the Wind Fury, it would have been a relatively decent play, but having the location down and getting it done as early as possible in general is going to be a stronger play. Hive Queen could have been quite strong too, since it did have the Wind Fury and Divine Shield, but I didn't particularly want to just do nothing on this turn, especially since they're establishing so much pressure towards me. They end up getting an extra buff coming from their dragons they're buffing each other, giving an extra 1/1, so it is a little bit of a concern for me. I do draw into the second Ultralisk Cavern. It's in general going to be best to play that rather than doing a do-nothing sort of turn. And next turn, it's more likely that I'll be able to draw into a Consume anyway, so I'll be able to get a Consume onto the board to be able to deal enough damage into some of their minions so I can start applying some pressure back towards them. I use the Life Tap here just to draw me an extra card. I do have the Consume here, so I have to use it since I'm running so low on health, and it does mean that I obviously get to clear a minion too. I have the Seaside Giants that are getting ready for next turn as well, so I will be able to get a bunch of Giants down onto the board too. So in general, I am starting to get into a relatively decent position. They do end up getting a dragon that is going to be quite strong for them. Obviously getting the extra power for it is going to be a bit of a big deal for them. I do have the Cavern here as well, so I just click the Cavern. It deals 1 damage to everything, and then I use the Consume to be able to get my health back, but also be able to get a Giant out onto the board. I played out my Seaside Giants, because in general it's just going to be a decent play for me. I used the Worm, I believe, so I can get the Carrigan for next turn, because I only do have the 2 cards left in the deck of the Zerg Package. So I play the Spawning Pool down. I've got the Carrigan for next turn if I need to be able to AoE. And then I just take out their 5 mana minion, so it means that they don't have a particularly strong way to trade into me. It seems like the way that this deck's built, their deck is built, is to be applying tempo, so I, in general, like the way that this is going for me. They are able to clear most of my board using all their different AoEs and such. And then they do obviously get the dragons out of their deck as well. So with the board I do have the Spawning Pool if I need to. I did draw into my Wallow the Wrench, so at the moment it just has the single buff of Divine Shield and Wind Fury. So I'm hoping that I will hit some stronger things in the following turns. I play down the Raptor to be able to get some more cards, and I choose the 3 attack and lifesteal. Something that I didn't think about with the Wallow is, for the one that has the Sweet Dreams, if it's in your hand, it will go into the top of your deck. And if it's in your deck, it will go to the top of the deck as well, because the buff is being applied to it as well, which means that place it on the top of your deck in addition to the other one that's there as well. I do play down my Hive Queen here so it can apply a little bit of pressure towards them as well. I did obviously get the lifesteal into my Wallow, so I'm hoping that I do end up getting charge on it relatively soon as well, because if I end up getting charge, it's obviously going to be lethal. They do play their Ysondre down. It seems like it's a relatively strong card, like it seems decent. I don't particularly know what the strongest way is going to be playing it. I do obviously have Carrigan in my hand here, so I need to get that down onto the board to apply some pressure into them. And I use the Spawning Pool here as well to be able to get my Zerglings onto the board, since I have 2 Spawning Pools anyway. And I use the Zerglings just to trade into the 8-2. They end up getting the life form from it, so it is a little bit of a concern for me, especially since my hero power isn't going to be that useful into it. And I am hoping they don't get things like Poisonous or Wind Fury or things like that coming from it too. They end up using their Succumb to Madness, so it does get them there another of their dragons out. And then they end up trading into both my minions. They do have the Wind Fury coming from it as well. I do have the Dark Gift minion that searches a minion from your deck, and I end up just choosing based on the stats that are there for it. I do want to get increased buff, but I was obviously hoping for charge. Like if there was any other charge ones there, I obviously would have chose that, because it would have pretty much guaranteed me the game here. I do have my hero power if I need to be able to use it. At the moment, they're not posing any sort of lethal towards me, so I don't really want to. I don't really want to be dealing too much to them anyway. Using the Horizon's Edge here would be a little bit of a mistake as well, because if I used it, it could potentially hit onto that 3-2 and give it something like a Divine Shield or something along those lines. They end up playing down their one. And in general, like if I get the charge, I do just win. So if I get one of my Dark Gifts and I do get charged, that obviously is the one that I'm looking for. They trade into my 3-3, which is fine for me. And then they get a few other dragons onto their board. The 6 dragon that only takes 1 damage isn't too much of a concern for me, because I do have my hero power, which is obviously able to deal a decent amount of damage into it, because it deals 1 each time. Once again, I'm still looking for the charge minion. I played out my Zergling here, and then I use the Horizon's Edge just to see what it ends up hitting into. It does hit into the rush minions, so obviously that's a decent hit for me. They are posing quite a lot of damage at the moment, so I am going to have to deal with most of the board. I end up drawing into Table Flip, which is really strong for me. So I play down the Table Flip, which does clear a lot of the minions that are there. And then I use the Horizon's Edge because I did obviously get the extra death coming from the Eat the Imp that I used. And at the moment I'm just deciding whether to play the Raptor or not, because if I play the Raptor and I do get the charge once again, it will just be lethal relatively soon. I end up opting to use the Spawning Pool just for the moment to be able to get the Zerglings out, and then I end up using my Ravage to be able to deal some damage to their board, and then I just trade into their minions by using my Zerglings as well and the Horizon's Edge in addition to it, and it does end up clearing most of their board, or all of their board, sorry. So they're just left with the 3 cards left in their hand, and I do have a relatively decent chance of winning now. That they do play the Roam card down. Like, I don't think I've ever seen this card being played before, but I'm pretty sure they got it through their Dark Gift, so it actually was inside their deck. It does mean that they are able to refill their hand quite a lot, which is a little bit of a concern for me. And my Zerg minions that I'm getting aren't particularly strong ones that I would really be looking for. Unfortunately, once again, I don't end up hitting the charge, so it does mean that I have to think of which one I'm going to be choosing. I do choose the Amalgamum because it means that I can deal damage coming from my hand if I need to, and I just play down a few of my minions just for applying some tempo and pressure towards them. I could have played down the Stealth Tiger, which would have been a good choice for me, because if I had of it meant that I would have the 8 damage onto the board, so that's a choice that I could have done that would have been a little bit better. They do end up getting the Russian Elusive Dragon back down into their boards. They once again are applying a little bit of pressure towards me. They end up trading into my Dark Gift minion as well, so I am still once again just waiting to be able to get the Dark Gift minion too. I do end up hitting into another one of the taunts, the Zergling taunts, so it is obviously going to be quite strong for me using that, because getting the taunt out onto the board is in general going to be good for me. I did have a check on my Wallow to be seeing what it would be doing. I play down the Spinecrawler, I play down the Stranglethorn Tiger, and then I play down my location searching card. And I just choose the Sagnary of Deaths because I don't really have any spells on my deck that does damage, and also I don't believe I have any dragons either. And by having the extra 1 attack, I can use it to be able to take out certain cards in their deck too. I do end up just not using the location, like I could have used it into the roam, but if I had of, it would have meant that it wouldn't have been available for next turn, where I could potentially use it to be able to take lethal onto them by buffing up one of my other cards. They do still obviously have the rush minion that's there that's being trading into all of my minions, and then they trade their taunt minion as well. So they did draw back a lot of their cards from their hand with Roam, which is a little bit concerning. They do end up silencing it to make sure they don't keep drawing coming from it too. And obviously I do still have the 8 damage in my hand to be able to deal with them. They end up playing down their Devastator, which clears most of their board. It does get them the rush minions out, but with the depths, in addition to having the 10 mana minion that then deals health, I do obviously have enough damage to be able to deal lethal to them. And obviously I'm just double checking to make sure that I do have lethal, because it's important that if you are doing a play that won't guarantee you obviously check to make sure that you do have enough. So I play down the Wallow, I use the buff just to make sure, and then I hit into them, and then they end up conceding. So like, that game was a lot more drawn out than the previous game, since I didn't have so many giants coming down onto the board. Obviously, you know, you can't always have a bunch of giants, so yeah, it is quite strong, especially if you do get the power plays, but if you're having to apply for pressure and things like that, it still has the ability to grind out games. So I ended up keeping my Nightmare, my Ruthheart Dread, and my 2-mana Dark Gift card, because it means that I'm got a relatively decent curve going into the opponent. They are going to be using the Leech deck more than likely, so it's important that I'm making sure that I'm using my cards on curve. They play down the Morbid Swarm, which I'm perfectly fine with. I did end up topping into the spawning pool, so I just play it down. I don't really want to use the coin in this turn, because if I use it, it means that I couldn't get to the 4-mana minion as quickly, which is in general going to be a preferred idea. In addition, if I have the Cavern, I do want to get that out as soon as possible as well. I do end up top decking into the Cavern, which was good for me, and then I use it. So like that just shows you the importance of keeping the coin in that sort of situation, because getting the Cavern out onto the board in general is going to be such a strong play for you that it's going to, especially against the 1/1s they had there, it is going to turn the tides of the match. They end up just using their hero player and then getting another Morbid Swarm out, so that's fine. I have a Consume here, which means that I'll be able to use it to be able to get my Giant out a lot earlier. I end up choosing in this one because I was thinking of using the Bucket of Soldiers because it did have the charge, but the Horizon Roughhouse in general is going to be the better minion just because of the fact that you get 2 of them onto the board and they're 2/2s. Having a 3-mana 0/2 with charge isn't going to be very strong, so I end up just choosing the Roughhouser. And although it's not as strong for my Wallow, it means that I'll be able to apply pressure into my opponent using it, in addition to, if I need to, I can use the Cavern as well. They end up just trading into my Dark Gift minion. They use their charge and then they just go face, so they're not really doing too much to me at the moment. My 1-mana minion ended up drawing me the Wallow, which was good. I end up just hitting my Cavern and then just passing over to them, so I have a decent board at the moment with the 2/4, the 2/2, and the 1/1. If they end up clearing my 1/1, it does mean that I'll be able to use my Giant next. I'll be able to get an extra Giant next turn. They end up trading into my 2/2. Obviously, they didn't really do too much. I did unfortunately draw into the Giant, which isn't good, but isn't that bad either. And then I end up using my minions to go face. I use the spawning pool here to be able to get my Seaside Giants down to a lower cost. And then I end up using the Consume, I believe, as well, to be able to get the extra Giant out of the board. Because I don't believe they run any sort of AoE that would be able to clear this board of Giants. If they used the Explosion, it would only be able to deal 7, so I still would have the extra Giant here. So I don't think that there's a way that they'd be able to clear this. And that's the reason why, obviously, I did apply this sort of big board towards them. If you're liking the content, please like and subscribe. I really do appreciate the support that has been coming. I did do a video of my first tournament with the different buffs. But yeah, if you're enjoying this expansion, I will be giving some more videos coming out in the coming days. Bye for now.